All right, I would like to invite her, some person. I'm talking about Dr. Mrs Ogochukwu Ugbonna, the Associate Professor of School of Transport and Logistics, Lagos State University, Lagos, Nigeria. She's going to be speaking on training of trainers for educators. Put your hands together for her. Please keep clapping. Thank you. You're welcome, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Williams, for the motivating intro that you gave us. Maritime is life, actually. And, recently I was speaking to your one students, and they didn't know why a vessel was referred to as she. And I hope our educators here know. Do we know? Because this is train the trainer, right? And we must have knowledge for us to be able to impart knowledge. Very crucial. And if we're talking about ocean education, maritime education, I'm sure when you're speaking to your students, and if a student asks you, excuse me, ma, or excuse me, sir, why do we refer to the vessel with the pronoun of she? I hope we're able to provide an answer. So, if you know or you don't know, the vessel is referred to as she because the vessel is likened to a woman that births something. Because in every vessel, it has capacity to do what? To have a lot of goods, to carry a lot of cargo. And also, remember, when we say that a vessel is birthing, it goes to birth. That is where it packs, so to speak. And you liken it to a woman giving birth to a child, bringing forth life. So vessels are always known as she, commissioning a vessel. So today, distinguished colleagues, educators, and partners in this journey towards a sustainable future, because everything about maritime is about sustainability. We need to look at having to, engage with the waters so that generations to come will still be able to meet something that is living, something that is able to sustain us. And that is why we take particular attention. It depends on things, the potentials that come from the ocean. So first of all, we're going to be looking at the agenda that I've put forward. This thing is actually blocking my view, but setting the scene, educators at the core, embedding in education, collaboration for impact, and shaping the future. Where does this thing? So now we're going to be looking at educators as change agents. Education, we know, is the backbone of any nation's development. When I was growing up, my elder sister used to write on every of her exercise book, knowledge is power. Knowledge, every exercise book I saw of my elder sister when I was young, knowledge is power. And when I began to think about it as I was growing up, it made a lot of sense. You cannot give what you do not have, right? So we as educators are what? Agents of change, because we have that knowledge. And having that knowledge is what gives us what? The power to change. Teachers are not only transmitters of knowledge, but they are also what? Shapers of values. They are shapers of attitudes and aspirations. Let me tell you something. As an educator, there are so many young ones looking up to you. The way you behave, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself in front of them in the classroom gives a lot of them aspirations. They are looking up to you. I know I looked up to a lot of people when I was growing up. And that is why I'm able to stand in front of you today and also do the same and encourage us. Let me tell you, especially with these children of this generation, they pay attention to everything. And quite unlike us when we were growing up, we didn't have the kind of courage and the kind of guts that they have. They have a lot of guts. I have them in my classrooms. And they can ask you any form of questions. And I'm sorry for you if you're not prepared to answer, because you're just folding your hands. Yes. So we must be able to see ourselves as role models to these young ones. And how can you be a role model if you're not equipped with the appropriate education? And that is why it's important that we're here to have this conversation. So when educators embrace new trends, they prepare students to thrive in emerging industries and careers. That is important. You must be able to build yourself. If in today's world, a teacher here does not know how to navigate on the LinkedIn, how to navigate on all those social media handles, you'll be following your handle where they are, because your visibility is very important to them. What you put out there, because many of these children are always on their smartphones. They need to see what you are doing. They need to know who you are on those outlets. So please, if you're a teacher here that you don't have social media visibility, please, when we get out from this place, let us do something about it. Now, why do we think marine and blue economy should be a discussion for now? With the creation of Nigeria's Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, it underscores the government's recognition of oceans, seas, and waterways as critical to national growth beyond oil. It is a good thing that we're beginning to say it. It has been oil all from independence. But lately, we're seeing that there are other non-oil commodities that can develop and be a source of development and growth of the Nigerian economy. And with the inauguration and commencement of this ministry, it is one way that we will now begin to think maritime and ocean education. So today we're like standing at a pivotal moment, moving from all those traditional sectors that we've all known into knowledge-driven and sustainable economies. Now, this is where educators are needed, because we are at the forefront of this transition, because students cannot aspire to careers that they are never taught. So we need to move with the time. That's just what we're saying. That transition must not take us unawares, because if we want to build up these careers in these children, if we want to catch them young, you also need to be indebted, need to have an in-depth knowledge of those careers. Now, we want to look at how we can link education to national development. Of course, it's obvious, but we still need to talk about it. For Nigeria, to maximize this maritime potential, the foundation we know must be laid in the classrooms. So we must begin to get the nitty-gritty of everything we want to know in maritime education. We need to start exposing marine and blue economic concepts and equip our young minds to opportunities in shipping, opportunities in fisheries, coastal tourism, renewable energy, and marine technology. And this is how we should align also the education in marine education with the sustainable development goals. There are about 3 of them that talk about coastal life, especially that of SDG 14 that talks about life below the sea, below water. And our educators need to know all these SDG goals because they are very important. So training the trainer is not just about passing on knowledge. It is about building capacity. It is about building ourselves for educators to integrate these new disciplines that we have into teaching. I have to press this thing several times. Where is it actually? I can't. Where is it? I keep pressing on it. Oh, well, maybe you'll be pressing it. So when we are now looking at the blue economy, there are so many definitions, but I'll stick with the World Bank and United Nations perspective that says that sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, and it is the improved livelihoods and jobs while preserving the health of what? Ocean ecosystems. And there are like 6 perspectives to the blue economy. When we're looking at shipping and ports, we're looking at seeing the oceans as highways for almost like 90% of global trade. The oceans are like highways for more than 90% of global trade. That gives it the importance and that criticality for studying. We must study it. And shipping and ports also are efficient and sustainable because they are the backbone of every nation's economic diversification, particularly in Nigeria. Therefore, training future leaders for maritime logistics is not just essential, but we should also do that for competitiveness because we're looking at global trade and you must stand out in global trade deals. Then we're also looking at fisheries. Fisheries and aquaculture provide food security and employment for millions. There are people that their livelihood today depends on the amount of fish that they are able to catch and sell in order to send their children to school, in order to have their daily bread. And most of our littoral communities, the Nigerian coastal communities, depend on fishing for their livelihood. So educators can instill this knowledge about sustainable fishing practices is one of the areas that you can teach the children about. Because you have to have a balance. There are times, there are ways or practices of fishing that depletes the ecosystem, marine ecosystem. So these are things that we must have to learn. How and when do we fish? The last time in collaboration with the African Resource Center for Excellence in Supply Chain Management, took the women in logistics and transport on a tour to Ekbe fish markets. You see, so many of our women don't even, they just know that they go to the market, they see fish, they buy. They don't know the rigors that go through getting that fish and bringing it to the market, smoking it and bringing it in. In that fish market, it was an eye-opener for most of us. What the women have to go to, because when you go there, you mostly see women. So the men folk go do the fishing, but the women are the ones to process, to store, to preserve, to smoke, and sell. We saw a lot of challenges, but that's not the crux of this. But it is something for us to understand that there are seasons for these things in shipping, in fishing, and life about maritime. So this is what our educators need to know and need to instill in others. Then we go to coastal tourism, the Maldives, to the Caribbean, right? It's beautiful, okay? Coastal tourism sustains some economies, and Lagos State is positioned to tap into that potential. What are we talking about? Nigeria has more than 860 or 50 kilometers of coastal borderline. We have beaches all over the place. This is one area that educators need to also get knowledgeable about and impart it. Children can build careers on coastal tourism. A lot of people are making living out of it. So it's an area we should look into. Then renewable energy. We think about harvesting wind farms. These are things we should also know about. Wave energy, tidal power. They are all emerging solutions that we have to climate change. We keep hearing climate change, climate change, climate change. We must introduce STEM-based learning that is tied to clean energy and solutions. Then we look at marine biotechnology. We know that our oceans are like a trove of bioresources for cosmetics, those that are in cosmetology, for pharmaceuticals, and even for other new emerging technologies. We need to understand that several researches into marine organisms could lead to breakthroughs. And I know we have very intelligent group of children in Nigeria. We have the skills. You see, for me, I have the confidence because when I speak to my undergraduate students, I am so motivated. 2 days ago, today is third, right? 2 days ago, Chief Mrs. Ezenwa, I don't know how many of you know, but I'm sure Mrs. Williams knows her. She retired from the Federal Ministry of Transportation. So she has this Lelouk bags. She's quite creative. For 40 years, she has been, making these very beautiful bags with Ankara, all locally sourced materials, but she sells globally. In fact, I am so perturbed and I admire her. She's one of my role models. She is the 001 that the federal government of Nigeria has given the certificate of origin in Nigeria in this after business, African Continental Free Trade Area. So we took our students because she had a symposium, and without the children knowing, the students knowing, we had students from LASU, from LASWED, from Yaba College of Technology, and I think UNILAG and Caleb. Spontaneously, the children were asked to, make pitches. You needed to have seen these children. The first person won 1 million naira. If you heard this boy speak, spontaneously, they were not asked to prepare anything before coming. There and then, they were just giving some questions. Come and pitch on it. How do we innovate? So let's not make the mistake that it's going to be difficult getting through to these children. You, the educators, need to have that convincing skill in you. You need to be able to know how to put it out there. There is something I do in my class, before every class. I call it just a few minutes of etiquette. And what do? I do not want the main folk to feel that I'm biased, but I particularly address the girls because we see a trend in the universities where these girls think that their lives revolve around the boys. I do not want to have a girl child. I do not want to have a daughter. I have a daughter. And I think I have brought her up the way I know I should. Your life does not depend on anybody. So many girls have died today because they think that this boy can provide her with human hair, provide her with God knows what that goes on in their heads. And that's why I take it up on myself. You can be whatever you choose to be in this life. And how do I start? The first day I can start talking about self-confidence. Because you need to be confident in yourself. How can you be confident if you don't know what to talk about? If you don't know what to talk about, then learn it. You have smartphones, but the only places you go to is to go to where they are selling human hair, where they are selling bags, where they are selling. There are several other things on YouTube that you can learn yourself. You can get educated. You must not be so in-depth in it, but at least have knowledge about it and speak out. Those students that stood out on that day, on the 1st, to attempt. My time is going. Oh, my world. Okay. Sorry about that. So, I was deviating a lot, but it comes from my passion. So anyway, marine conservation talks about healthy oceans, how we can regulate them and provide oxygen. But having a global perspective, positions us like the blue economy is valued at over $1.5 trillion annually. That's globally. Coming back to Nigeria, we have about $7 billion annual contribution of maritime sector to the GDP. I hope you know that. So it is big. And we have the potentials. That's what I want to say. Let me leave it at that. You can go to the next one. So why do we think that this blue economy matters for Nigeria? It matters because it gives us that level of diversification beyond oil. I've said that. And it gives us avenue for job creation, for youth employment. It gives us an avenue to learn how to manage our poorly managed maritime activities. If you move around the creeks, I have moved around those Lagos creek, Badagry creeks. The level of pollution is alarming. It is alarming. We've done studies about women in littoral communities' access to essential medicines. The result wasn't good at all. Let me not also, because sometimes I tell stories, from my experiences and researches we've done. So, but the whole idea is that we must pay attention to environmental protection, especially around these communities, and also to, move towards sustainability. And Nigeria's ports, the Lekki Deep Sea Port, Apapa, Tinkan, One, all of them are critical, trade gateways for West and Central Africa. We should be a hub by now, maritime hub by now, in order to, we keep talking about after. Trans-African trade, we should be able to tap into that business, for Africa. Okay, can you go to the next one? So what is the role of educators? This is where we are concerned. So educators should stand as knowledge multipliers. Every educator influences dozens, even hundreds of students every year. By embedding marine and blue economy concepts in lessons, teachers can begin to spark the curiosity in these students in the field of maritime. And it will create a ripple effect. Students will share with their families, with their friends, with their communities, and the awareness will begin to spread. Then we should also provide career guidance, especially in these emerging fields, right? There are fisheries, different things that go on in the maritime industry. And we teachers should serve as guides to expose these children into to these opportunities that we have. Because when teachers are informed, they can inspire students to see maritime and blue economy professions as viable and prestigious. Then we need to also link classrooms to real-world relevance, right? You're not changing this to real-world relevance. And we must be able to promote sustainable, awareness on them and try to build national capacity through education. Then training the trainers approach. One, the first step is to create the awareness, and this is what we're doing with Ocean ambassadors calling us here. We're beginning to understand the importance in blue economy. Then knowledge building. After being aware, how do you now build yourself? You must learn to provide educators with specialized content in shipping, fisheries, and all the other areas in the blue economy, and collaborate with universities. We offer short-term courses in many of these areas. So collaboration with universities, with NGOs, with industry experts are sure ways of improving. Then your pedagogical integration. What are the methodologies you're using to teaching? Teachers must know how to teach blue economic concepts effectively. Training should include project-based learning, case studies, field trips, role plays, and use of digital tools. Just yesterday, we took some of our postgraduate students to Semeboda. We teach them about non-tariff barriers in AFTA, what to do things better and safer. Then you have capacity building and partnership. I've talked about it, I won't go into it again. What are the challenges and what are the opportunities? The challenges, one, we have limited awareness, and that is why what global ambassadors are doing is very important. Let us start creating that awareness. Then we have the curriculum gaps. I'm sure that is why you invited the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Education here to know how we can take something back and integrate into our curriculum. Then we have resource constraints. The resource constraint comes from we that are here. We need to also up our ante, right? We need to have certifications, we need to have skills, build up ourselves before we can transfer knowledge. Then we have resistance to change. When you're leading a people, if you're in the leadership stratum, you know how difficult it is to introduce something new to your people. Knowing how to be a change manager is one of the most critical and important skills in life. So we need to know how to introduce new subjects and be able to let our people. Then the opportunities are diverse. Government commitment. With the creation of this Ministry of Blue Economy, it demonstrates that at least we have that political will to delve into that. We have the youth population, we have the manpower, and we have international bodies and donors that are increasingly interested in seeing that these subjects are on demand. And we have industries that have demand for these skills and innovation in teaching. So what's the roadmap? You have the short term, you have the medium term, and you have the long term actions. The short term is this awareness and orientation, resource development. Medium term is that curriculum integration, capacity building, partnership programs. Then the long term is having a formal curriculum adoption, research and innovation hubs, and having sustainable career pathways. So what's the call to action? Let us embrace our roles as champions of blue economy. Let us try to inspire curiosity and career aspirations. Let us also collaborate, build networks with universities, with NGOs, advocate for curriculum change, and let us nurture sustainable values. In conclusion, let me say that the blue economy is here to stay, and that our roles as educators is very important, and it is what can sustain blue economy in our country. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, MC, but
All right. Thank you very much. Put your hands together once again. Do we have any questions for her? Hold on. Do we have any question? No question? No. I think someone has a question. Just 2 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. My question is this. We're trying to build career in the water, and I think most of the career or the jobs will be working in the water. Am I right? As in, most of the jobs to be done should be on the water. So the problem is this: how to get the learners to understand about the thing about phobia for water, and also safety, because from the news and things we hear about water, we've not really gotten to that level where the water is safe for people, so that people can be confident of getting into a career that has to do with water.
thank you very much. I understand where you're coming from, because yes, over here in our culture, we have this phobia for water. Careers in blue economy does not really say that you must be inside the water all the time, except if you're training to be a Navy person, if you're training to be a seafarer, if you're training to be a diver. There are so many other things that you can do in the maritime sector that does not need you to even enter the ship. You can be a data analyst. Have you thought about that? Because yes, you can be a logistician in the marine. So many of these trucks, it's somebody that is doing it. You can be a whole lot of, or even providing food for those on board the vessel. It has a name, and you've chandling. Uh-huh. She's a chandler, and do you sleep on the vessel exactly? So that's why I said educators need to have knowledge. So by the time you explore, you now begin to see the different areas that you can make a living in maritime sector. You're not going to do the fishing if you don't want to be a fisherman. Okay? Like the women in Egbe, they are not doing the fishing, but they are taking care of most of us. Collecting the fish, storing them, making sure they are safe to eat. And, I don't even want to go into other things that you could, circular economy. How do you revolve everything that comes around the fish to ensure that little or nothing is wasted? That's the context of circular economy. But knowledge is, how will I say it, unfathomable. You can't learn everything. So you keep every day by day you study and find out. Okay? So I encourage all of you, please, let us get the conversation going. Thank you.
All right. We have one more question.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ugbonna, for that well-researched paper. Along the line, you said something about inclusion in the school curriculum, and the earlier we start, the better. And I'm going back to starting from the primary school level. How do we get that into the present curriculum? Curriculum is something that we change, and it has to be very relevant to our environment. And I like the part that you said if you look at Lagos, the waterway that we have is enough for us to do a lot of things. Now, I'm happy that the permanent secretary, TESCOM, is here. Maybe it will help us to go back to the ministry so that this thing can start right from the primary school. Like, I want to be a geographer. I have a little bit of knowledge from my social studies at the primary level, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to be a doctor. I must have had a bit of primary science or basic science
Elementary science.
at the elementary. Okay. Now, this thing, how do we get it done to include these maritime studies into the curriculum at the primary level?
Okay. So, like I said, I listed some steps. So the first step is what we're doing now, that awareness, okay? And curriculum development doesn't just come like that. It starts from hearing the word. And hearing the word, having the right people. Like you said, the PAMSEC is here. And I'm sure she's interested in what we're saying. If not, she wouldn't be here. So before the big thing, the formal integration starts, you can do your side lessons in the school. You can have extracurricular activities. Extracurricular, yes. Low-hanging fruit. You can have clubs. Like, I'm the Lagos chapter coordinator of African Center for Supply Chain. So what did we do? No, we found out that nobody in the School of Transport that came into School of Transport had that course as the first choice course. They either came from medicine or they came from other places because they couldn't meet up the cutoff mark. So we now started saying, it's true that these people don't really know, because I did transport management technology first course choice at FUTO. But then it was never in the university like that. It was always done in postgraduate studies and under engineering. I was actually the only girl in my class then. And I know what I went through to sustain myself. So we now said, why don't we catch them young? So I said, okay, I have an international school in my university. Why don't we start there? And luckily for us, we targeted them before filling JAMB form. And my God, a lot of these children changed their minds. And many of them, I'm clearing them in logistics and supply chain in my faculty now. They changed their mind. Because let me tell you, logistics and supply chain, of which this blue economy falls under, is the lifeline of everything we do in life. Because when you tell somebody you're studying transport or you're studying logistics, they will start thinking about Danfu. They will say, what are we even studying about? But it is more complex, especially if you want to go into route planning, route assignment. It's not just about Danfu. You need to know how to coordinate. Integration is the effective way of movement. Now we are suffering it because many of our transport infrastructures are not integrated. They are not seamless yet. Lagos State is trying because they have almost all the modes. But we are talking about integration. How can I move from my house to mile 2, enter the train, and seamlessly find myself maybe going to Apapa from Siemens? I will enter the boat, move to Apapa. How can vessels that berth at Apapa move my containers on piggybacks down to Port Harcourt without going on the road? Lagos-Benin Express Road is like a death trap. Trucks are everywhere at each point. Shagamu, Okada, Benin bypass. It is terrible. So we are studying this and we keep saying the rail system needs to come back into existence and needs to integrate. And that is one of the solutions we need to find. Remember when Dangote refinery came, a lot of people were afraid. What will happen to that axis? Because no provision for rail line to cut away these trucks. And now we're beginning to see them lining up that Ekpe Ibejuleki axis. So we have the skills in this country. We need the political will and intentionality to see that things are working. A lot of very well-skilled fintech Nigerians are out of this country because the environment is not suitable for them to, exercise what they know. But we know we have the capacity. We have individuals that know these things. So that intentionality is what is lacking, and that attitude to see that things work. Okay. Can you share the presentation? Yes, please, I will. Absolutely.
All
I
right.
will share.
We have
Thank
another
you so
question
much.
here.
Okay. This MC is going to arrest me very soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of children to teach, starting early from the primary or to secondary. Now, at the secondary, you mentioned you were able to work with the international school of the university, that's the secondary arm. Now, for our children in the secondary school, in the combination of subjects they will do, you understand?
Okay.
And then what are the things you begin to let them know, before we okay, you want to go to offer this course, and these are the job opportunities, which are what we will do as educators. We will do a lot of research, but now okay, what are the subject combination, so that it's not just like this and this.
Okay.
I know we have idea, but I just want us to generally, you are going to admit.
Yes.
So what subject combination would you be looking at for a student who want to come and study this course?
Okay, so the current CC Maths has made it very easy for students. English and Maths, they are for O levels. English and Maths are compulsory. Then you can have a trade course. A trade course like economics. You can do a social science, geography, civic education. Okay, so English, Maths, you have a trade course, then you have a social science course or a science course. So you can have English, Maths, economics or geography, physics, chemistry, and civic education. You can have those combinations. Okay? Thank you very much.
The last question. Mama.
Thank you, Ma, you said something about field trips.
Yes.
Now you can see that most of these, even these days, some parents, they are afraid of releasing their children to take part in the excursion. So what can we do?
Okay, so before every field trip, I think your school should schedule that field trip to fall after a PTA meeting. During your PTA meetings, you see, if I own a school, I will make PTA meetings to be compulsory. A parent must be represented. And I don't even know. I think we parents also have our own skoi. Why would you have a child in a school and you will not be present when a decision that will affect your child is taken? So, as much as you're working with the children, you should also work with some of these parents, right? So for that, how I would approach it is that I'm going to present it, that you have your timetable for the term, and maybe you put that field trip after a PTA meeting, and you present it at the PTA meeting, and let them know the benefits that their children will have by going on that trip. I think that's how when I was growing up, my mother told me, she said it in Igbo, but I don't know how to translate, that when you move out, that's when you learn. You see things that you don't know. Moving, so she's not somebody that wants to put you in one place. Moving around is part of education. That's what you tell your parents. It's because our children now, this phone, you will carry them in the car, and that's how they will keep, bending over the phone. When my father was the registrar in Federal Arts and Science in Kontagora, in Mina, I took that ride with him. In fact, I stayed with him for the early part of my growing up years because my mom had to go to the teacher training institute. And what did Papa tell me? At the end of every trip, I will give him a list of all the things I saw on the road. And one question I asked him, then I used to see post no bill. So I was always asking him, do they put NEPA bill? Why would anybody put NEPA bill on the wall? And as little as 4 years, 5 years, I now learned that post no bill meant billboards. Do not put your adverts on the wall. So these were parents that were intentional about educating their child. And I wish that is the position of our parents of today. I know the stress and all the, of life sometimes make us not to pay attention. But please, that change begins from the home. You cannot take that away from yourselves. You have the response. The home is the first place that change begins, that education begins. Don't carry it and throw to the teachers. That is where I see some gap. A lot of parents now say, after all, we're paying them. What are you talking about? Paying who for what? Do your bit as a father, as a mother in the home. The teacher is just there to enhance what that child has learned from home. In these global north countries, there are some things, once your child starts missing, they will just leave the child or call the police for the child. They will tell you, ma'am, I'm not here to do your work. But here, because of our cultural difference, we take time. We even call the parents. We do this. Oh, this child, this. How can a child not be feeling well? And the mother knows, the father knows. And you still take that child to school. There are so many things we need to talk about, but please, let's help our MC and call it a day. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Presenter, Dr. Associate Professor.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Well, it's still morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It actually gives me a very, very nauseating and nostalgic feeling to stand before you here to present, to listen. It was a very well researched and an eye opener for me. Very, very insightful and knowledge sharing. I'm very grateful for that. And I'm going to start from where you stopped now about parenting and parents that have shelved the responsibility to schools. It's very paramount now. That's what we see everywhere. It's very manifest everywhere we go. Presently, the Lagos State government is recruiting teachers, and what we see is appalling, to say the least. But that is not why we are here. We are here for this blue economy knowledge and how to develop the maritime and tap into the maritime knowledge. I want to share with you, I'm sure that everybody here knows this, that the federal government has introduced a new curriculum starting effective from this September. Well, this is October. It has started, yes, from September. And some of the goals is basically some of the things that you have spoken about. It is to make Nigeria future ready.
Yes.
It is to make our students employable.
Correct.
And it is also to make them patriotic and to know that unity in diversity is something that is paramount, so that wherever you are as a Nigerian, your focus should be on the development and unity of this country. So having said that, and then also the federal government, the state government has already adopted, that is the Lagos State government has already adopted this, and plans are on the way, youth plans are on the way. I'm glad that some of our teachers, our principals and vice principals are present in this hall. We take every opportunity to learn in Lagos State, whether directly sponsored or NGO sponsored. That's why at every point that we see any opportunity, we tap into it. That is why we are the center of excellence. That is why we are the 5th largest economy in Africa. And that is where, that is why we continue to be the state of aquatic splendor. We don't take our maritime environment for joke. We don't take it as a joke.
we exploit. And that is why on Sunday, the Lagos State government is going to have the first ever electronic space boat or boat race in Africa. And you are all invited and come and work. It's something that we cherish. And you have also, today, you have impacted me a lot. And I want to thank you for the knowledge that you have shared. The curriculum also takes cognizance of the fact that trade, as you have said, is paramount. And every children must learn about entrepreneurship. These are some of the things that we need. I'm going to exchange contact with you. I'm going to invite you to some of our workshops, and you come and explain to us more. Because like we all know, you cannot give what you don't have. If you don't have the knowledge, if you don't have the exposure, if you don't have the experience, you can't share it. So I am very glad. I'm very happy. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you.